All right, Daniel, you ready?
As ready as I'll be.
All right.
All right. Music, medicine for your brain. Quote, in an instant, music can uplift our soul. It awakens within us the spirit of prayer, compassion, and love. It conjures up memories of lost lovers or deceased friends. It lets the child in us play, the monk in us pray, the cowgirl in us line dance, the hero in us surmount all obstacles. Music is a holy place, a cathedral so majestic that we can sense the magnificence of the universe. It helps plants grow, lulls children to sleep, and marches men to war. Yet it is more than all these things. It is the sounds of the earth and the sky, of tides and storms. From the first cry of life to the last sigh of death, from the beating of our hearts to the soaring of our imaginations, we are enveloped by sound and vibration every moment of our lives. It is the primal breath of creation itself, the speech of angels and atoms, the stuff of which life and dreams, souls and stars are ultimately fashioned. Music has had an enormous impact on our society and the world at large. One of the lesser known benefits of music is that it can increase your mental health. In every stage of life, music can have a positive influence on your brain. We see this in those with learning disabilities, those who are experiencing trauma and pain, the elderly, and the general public. 1 out of 6 children in the United States has a developmental disability, which basically hinders the child's brain from maturing normally. And this means that there are 12 million children in our nation alone with this issue. What you wouldn't realize, though, is that some of these children, their issues are never fixed or healed. So there are actually more than 12 million people in the United States that have developmental disabilities. One way of helping, and in some cases healing, these impaired people is through music. One of the speech disabilities that music can help is Broca's aphasia. It is a speech disability that requires a person to work a lot harder to speak fluently and normally. However, therapists will use something called melodic intonation therapy to help the patient. What they'll do is they'll have the patients tap a rhythm in their left hand and ask them to sing phrases that they would use in a normal public scenario, such as hello, how are you, or nice to meet you, things like that, but put a melody to them. And this is actually very helpful for the person because musical elements are located in the right hemisphere of the brain and language is in the left side. So the way that that can help is that if language is on one side and music is on the other, and your language skills aren't working correctly, you can basically bypass that part of your brain and go to the other side, which is the musical elements, and it basically acts as a backup for some of your rhetorical skills. Now, when someone looks at the human race as a whole, there are some things that we all have in common. One of these things is, or two of these things is pain and trauma, and specifically mental pain and mental trauma. Now, these aren't as discussed as, let's say, physical pain, because physical pain is a lot easier to see. You can see blood, you can see bruises, you can see all that kinds of stuff. But mental pain is a lot harder to see in yourself and in other people. But regardless, music can have an amazing impact on people with trauma and pain. And one of the types of pain that music can help heal is brain injury. A lady named Gabby Giffords, a skilled public speaker, was shot in her left frontal cortex. She didn't die, but she was almost completely unable to speak. So she went through therapy sessions to try to get her way of speaking back. And her therapist one day was attempting to have her say the word light, and it wasn't working. She tried many times, and Gabby just couldn't say it. So the therapist, as a last-ditch effort, started singing the familiar tune, "This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine." And it worked. Gabby began to sing along with her therapist, matching her in pitch, tempo, and it worked. She was able to communicate that way through music. And this is just one of countless stories that proves that music is a helpful tool to heal brain injury. Now, music can also decrease anxiety and stress. It boosts your endogenous opioids, which makes you smile more and increases your feelings of relief and well-being. It will lessen cortisol and another hormone that are stress and anxiety related. Classical music is also played at a hospital in Baltimore, and the hospital director there can prove that music is being measured to an amount in medicine. He says, quote, "Half an hour of music is equal to 10 milligrams of Valium, and Valium is a sedative that treats anxiety. So music is actually being measured in comparison to what people call real medicine. And also in Edmonton, Canada, violinists play in quartets in the city squares. And you may think, what's the big deal? It will actually calm traffic down, and it also decreases the amount of drug dealing in that area. Another type of pain and trauma that music can help is depression. Over 40 million people struggle with this problem every year. Depression can lead to sleep disruptions, heart disease, weight gain or loss, weakened immune system, physical pain, anxiety disorders, panic disorders, social phobia, generalized anxiety disorder, self-harm, and suicide. And those are just the ones that I found. One strategy that can help with depression is music. As surprising as it seems, listening to sad music can actually help you in your depression. Now, this sounds completely backwards. Listening to sad music would make you sad, right? No, it actually doesn't. This is because of depressive realism. Depressive realism is basically explained as saying that when we're sad, we see life more clearly. It increases our attention to detail, keeps us less biased, and we can see things in a more accurate light. And sad music can also help with depression because depending on the song, we're able to relate to the artist or the singer through the lyrics that they're sharing. We can listen to something and go, yeah, I've been through that. Yeah, I know what that's like. Yeah, that stinks, but man, I'm glad that someone out there knows what I'm going through. And also, if you're a particularly emotional person and you listen to music and you happen to cry, that's actually a good thing. The hormone prolactin is released when we cry, and it leads to tranquility and feeling better. So if you're ever crying while listening to music, don't ever feel ashamed because it's actually helping you. Now, everyone knows that as we age, our bodies break down. And part of your body that breaks down significantly in elderly people is the brain. And there are many ways to prolong the mental health of the elderly. Therapy, logic games, and exercise have all proven to work, but music has too. Insomnia is a sleep disorder that mostly affects people over the age of 60. It makes it harder to sleep and can incite depression and anxiety. But once again, music can help with this problem. A study of patients with insomnia said that they, quote, rank music as the most effective non-medical intervention for falling asleep faster, and that music-assisted relaxation improved overall sleep quality. So not only did it put them to sleep faster, it also made them sleep better. And music can also fight against Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's disease causes people to lose their memory and makes it harder to complete other basic mental tasks like loading a dishwasher or folding laundry, things like that. But when people with Alzheimer's listen to music, it heightens the strength of the brain, which allows them to complete more tasks in a quicker time and also increase their memory. Parkinson's disease is a condition that affects the nerve cells in the brain involving movement. So symptoms of this disease would include tremors, slow movement, stiffness, lack of balance, those type of things. And many people have been seen to have Parkinson's disease, and they could be sitting in a hospital bed or laying down and they're just completely motionless. But when a song comes on that they know, all of a sudden they're singing, laughing, smiling, swaying to the beat of the music. And also, if they can't walk or something like that and they hear music that they know and they love, they are able to move when before they weren't have been able to move at all. The scope of this paper so far has discussed learning disabilities, trauma and pain, and elderly issues. But if you don't relate to any of those categories and you would classify yourself as normal, then you may think, how in the world would music be able to help? Oh boy, listen to this. Even if you don't have a disability, music can still help immensely in your life. When people move together in synchronization, like line dancing or other things involved in music with other people, you tend to like and trust each other more, and you're also willing to work together to accomplish your goals. Also, in the early 1900s, researchers from the University of California began to discover the power of Mozart's music. And in my research, Mozart's music was coming up everywhere, more than any other composer. And for some reason that I don't know, his music is one of the most effective types of healing music. So these researchers from the University of California, they did a study on high school and college students. The students completed a spatial IQ test and scored 8 to 9 points higher after listening to Sonata for Two Pianos in D major by Mozart for 10 minutes. And after this study was published, Mozart recordings were immediately sold out in stores, and people recognized that this was a credible source and music can actually help people, so they were buying Mozart music. And a second study from these same people was introduced. 79 students over a 5-day span were challenged to identify images of pieces of paper that were folded, and the task was that they had to figure out what the pieces of paper that were folded would look like if they were unfolded. And over a 5-day span, the students were divided into 3 groups. One of them listened to absolutely nothing, silence. The second group listened to mixed sounds. So this included music by Philip Glass, an audiobook, and a dance piece. And the third group listened to the original Mozart sonata. And from day 1 to day 2, all of these groups increased in their skills. The silence group actually increased 18%. I'm not sure why. The mixed sounds group increased by only 11% actually, but the Mozart group, they increased by 62%. So this is easily proving that music can increase one's concentration. The same researchers also did a study on preschoolers and their interactions with music. 34 children studied playing from memory, music notation, fingering techniques, sight reading, and pitch intervals. These children showed up to 36 increase in spatial and temporal tasks compared to other children who learned from computer lessons or other learning methods other than this one. And with the previous study from the same people in the University of California, the college and high school age students, their intelligence only lasted about 15 minutes. But these preschoolers, their increased intelligence lasted an entire day. And because of these studies, many public schools began playing various Mozart pieces as background music in their schools. And they were able to see an increase in the students' performance and attention. And through personal experience, I have found that music can cure headaches. Anybody remember Snowvid 21? First day of that, I had the worst headache of my life. It was not fun at all. And I was actually trying to do research for this presentation, and I was reading a book on music therapy. And I just had this nagging thing in my head that was telling me I need to go play piano. So I put my book down, I went in there, and I played something that I'd never played before. And time passed by very quickly, and my mom ended up calling me out to dinner, and I had almost forgotten that I had the headache in the first place. It was completely gone. And it wasn't like I was playing for an hour or something. It was maybe 10 minutes. So considering all of this information, it is obvious that music can help improve mental health. It can improve speech, ease pain, heal and help various diseases and disabilities, and improve the general public. Now, without a doubt, music increases your mental health. Countless stories across the world can be told about this. All of them together would not be able to fit in the biggest book in the world. I will conclude this paper with a story. Lorna was listening to the radio in her car one rainy afternoon, and a truck came up behind her and rear-ended her really, really hard. So hard, in fact, that she was not able to get out of her car, and the medical team was notified and were sent to come get her out of the vehicle. But right before the car accident happened, the radio was preparing to play Act 1 of Rossellini's The Barber of Seville from the Metropolitan Opera House. This is a very popular opera, and she knew this opera. And because she was trapped and the medical team couldn't get to her, the music was continuing to play. And the medical team was panicking. They could not get her out of that car. But as Lorna is literally dying, she is listening to this opera. And she listened to the first act of the opera and the next 15 minutes before the medical team was able to pull her out of the vehicle. She was taken to the hospital. After this was over, she was quoted as saying, "My spirit stayed with my body. The music kept me alive. I was able to listen and stay conscious, alert, and at peace with the music. I never even thought I was injured because the music was so alive. I just kept listening and listening. From the beginning of that aria, I knew that I had to finish the opera of my life." Everything considered, it is obvious that music can help anyone wherever they are in music. The aspiration of this paper is to help the reader understand the importance of the healing powers of music, not just cool facts about what music does to act as medicine for the brain, but something more, ways to help oneself in everyday life. Undoubtedly, this is a new concept for some, but it is one of the greatest ways to increase your mental health. Thank you.